Hello, friends. This is Mark from the Human-Cetacean Alliance, and I'm still speaking to you from the coasts of Algarve in the south of Portugal. And this one is not a walk and talk because it's been raining a lot. It's been an extremely rainy winter here, which is unusual. And in a way, it is a rebalancing because we've had a drought for quite a few years. But in that rebalancing, there is imbalance taking place. And I don't feel that is quite natural. But yeah, I'm not going to discuss that in today's video. So the weather does makes walk and talks pretty impractical. So instead, you have this beautiful, beautiful background with my beautiful friend behind me to enjoy. And yeah, I find it a sight for not necessarily sore eyes, but let's call it a treat for the eyes. So the subject of the day is the pain of disconnection and how to heal it. Now, when we say that we are, or more properly said, we feel disconnection, disconnected, what does that mean exactly? What are we referring to? What are we disconnected from? Well, to me, this is the more fundamental pain. It is the deepest pain, the core wound that humanity is struggling with. And it has a whole cascade of repercussions that affects all aspects of our life. So it is extremely important that we understand it and address it. So to go to the heart of the matter, what really the pain of disconnection is and what we are or feel disconnected from at a fundamental level is ourselves. And when I say ourself, I mean our deeper self, our deeper nature underneath and beyond the surface personality, the ego that is our personality interface for the deeper self to function and interact in this reality, in this 3D reality. So, what are the consequences? And first, the first question we need to ask ourselves is, are we truly disconnected from our deeper nature, our deeper self? Well, the answer to that, as I feel into it and understand it, is no. No, we aren't. We never are, in spite of all appearances to the contrary. We never are truly disconnected from our deeper nature, our deeper being, but we have the illusion that we are. We can feel disconnected. And that illusion can be extremely strong. So we all live under it to various degrees. So for some people, that illusion has thinned to be almost non-existent at this point. And for others, it is so strong. It is so strong. It has such powerful grip on them. The illusion is so thick that not only do they feel completely disconnected and have absolutely no awareness that there is such a thing as a deeper self, but to the outer observer, they look completely disconnected. And when I say that this is never the case, for this type of person, the thread of connection is so thin that it appears non-existent. It isn't really, but it appears that way. And because it appears that way, you get the impression that the being is empty, that there is nothing in their eyes. You cannot see anything, any substance. You cannot see any substance when you look into their eyes. You cannot see any presence. Well, if you can look deep enough, you will see it. But at first glance, there's nothing there. So, what are the consequences? What are the consequences? Well, the first thing is if we are not in touch with who we truly are, not who we appear to be, well, we don't know. Obviously, we don't know who we are. And that is very uncomfortable. Ask an amnesiac person how comfortable they feel about not knowing who they are. And when I say that we don't know who we are, I don't refer to names or stories, even though they can matter. They can have their importance. That's not what I refer to. I refer to a really, really deep sense of identity that has very, very strong roots within ourselves, strong enough to be unshakable. And because it is unshakable, it provides us with a deep sense of peace, a certainty about who we are, even if we cannot necessarily articulate this feeling in a linear way, in an intellectual way. And that feeling of certainty and that deep inner peace is also caused by the fact that at this deep level, we are interconnected with all of life. That gives great comfort. That gives a great sense of certainty and security. So if we don't have that, well, number one, we are going to build an identity as a substitute that is going to be made out of stories, what happened to you, and beliefs, belief systems. And belief will play a crucial role in the construct of that manufactured identity. And that is why you see so many people that become extremely uncomfortable and even belligerent when you challenge their beliefs. When you challenge their belief system too abruptly, what's the reaction? The reaction can be very volatile. It can get really explosive because people feel like you are attacking their very foundation, their core. You are actually really threatening their sense of security, their sense of who they are. So some of them will lash out. And we've all seen that. We've all seen that. So remember a few years ago, remember that, when the world was going through a certain, hmm, let's say, health-threatening event, how the people who were adhering very strongly to the official narrative, the way you would react if you dared doubt or challenge that official narrative, how extremely confrontational they were. So that's the first consequence. And the second consequence is that this inner disconnection, illusory as it might be, ripples out. It is being reflected in our outer relationships, all of our outer relationships. So in our relationship with other people, we are going to experience that feeling of disconnection. And look at the state of the world. Look how difficult it is for groups to understand one another, how polarized things have become, how people have been, societies have been fragmented into a multitude of tiny tribes, no? And they cluster in bigger tribes. But all these tribes, well, they also have an identity that is very manufactured. And here I could talk about the role of the social engineers who deliberately promote and favor and make that kind of fragmentation worse. But that's also not the subject of this video. So there is that disconnection with other people. And then there is also a disconnection with other life forms that we call nature. We have been very disconnected from nature. So it is really evident. It is evident when you look at the way we have been treating nature, how disrespectful we have been and how contaminated we have been by that ideological mind virus that we had to tame nature. That nature was basically a resource to harness and to exploit, and that we had to dominate it. That became extremely prevalent during the Industrial Revolution, of course. So ultimately, we feel disconnected with life. We feel disconnected from life. And again, that gets reflected in our position in regard to the rest of the universe as a species. We have been a species under quarantine, meaning that we have been indoctrinated by the belief that we are the only species in the universe. Sorry, the only planet that has evolved sentient life in the universe. And it's not really phrased in that way, you know. If you ask mainstream scientists, the usual response is going to be, well, we don't know. We don't know. There is no evidence. There is no evidence, therefore, we don't know. We cannot assume. Well, there is a lot of evidence, actually. If you really want to look for it, if you're not if you're not wearing ideological blinds. But again, we see a reflection here. And again, too, that is by design, because up until a few millennia ago, up until about 12,000 years ago, we had open contacts with other civilizations and other species. So 12,000 years ago, we entered the really most extreme version of duality that we have been in since then, and that we are currently in the process of extracting ourselves from. But that species under quarantine situation is another sign of the illusion of disconnection. And really, in reality, contacts have never stopped. It's just that they have been restricted to the ruling class. Well, a tiny section of the ruling class, to be more specific. All right, so another consequence of the illusion of disconnection is that we don't feel properly nurtured. We don't feel properly nourished. Because where does our primary source of nourishment comes from? Again, from our deeper self that is connected with all of life, that is multidimensional, is connected to all of life horizontally, but also vertically, to use that kind of model, as a frame of reference. So that connection with the depth of ourselves connects us to everything. So that is the deepest source of nurturance, of nourishment. And if we cannot feel that, if we don't feel properly nourished, well, we're going to try to find it, our nourishment from other people, which is not going to work if they are also under the illusion of disconnection. And that's where you see all of these power games where people are constantly trying to steal energy from one another. And it's really a sight to behold. When you become aware of these dynamics and these games, it's really mind-boggling to observe. Mind-boggling. But another coping mechanism that is extremely prevalent these days is that we try to substitute excitement for nourishment. We try to find stimulus. We are chasing the buzz, basically. And that is something that is becoming really extreme these days. And the development of social networks is very much based on these dynamics. They play on these dynamics and they reinforce these dynamics because everyone is trying to hit that dopamine hit on social networks. Ooh, I've got a like on my comments. I've got a like on my video. Ooh, I feel validated. And boom, there goes the dopamine hit. Now, that is no substitute at all. That is no substitute at all. And of course, there are so many ways to chase excitement. Drugs have become so extremely present in our lives these days too. Whether they are legally allowed drugs or so-called illicit drugs, they are everywhere. They are everywhere and consumed in ever greater quantities. Because really, awareness is rising. It's an extremely deep process of awakening that is taking place. And as it is rising, for most people, that is an unconscious, a subconscious process. And so they feel that pressure coming from within, and that pressure hits their inner structure, there's the inner structure of their psyche, and makes them feel uncomfortable, more uncomfortable, because the first effect this pressure has is that it puts the finger where it most hurts. So it actually increases the pain of disconnection, so we become aware of it. So people feel even more disconnected. So they chase the stimulus, the stimuli. They chase the excitement. They chase these feelings of excitement ever more. Violence has become so extreme in fiction, in movies, in TV series, in novels, in comics, so extreme. Same principle. Now, that is the diagnosis. And what is the remedy? Well, there are many methods, of course. There are many methods, and the one I choose to operate from, and on which my approach is based, is relationship with these guys, cetaceans, dolphins and whales, these tribes. And why? Well, first, because they've called to me. That's what they have suggested I could do. That's what they have offered to cooperate with me for. They are very, very heart-centered beings. They are very connected with life, as we all are, but they're very aware of it. They are very aware of their connection with life and with each other. So they have a very strong, very high level of sentience. They are very aware of themselves, of who they are. So they are very individualized, but at the same time, if you observe the dynamics of a dolphin pod or a pilot whale pod or an orca pod, family is everything. That's just an expression, it's not everything. But they have a social life that is so rich, so rich. Now, marine biologists, they usually agree on one point, is that they still know very little about cetaceans, because what they can observe and what they can make sense of are two very different things, very different. But if you approach the relationship with them from the heart, you're going to have a much more meaningful communication and interaction with these beings than approaching it with the linear mind based on observations, which is the scientific method, the way we currently understand science, which is very limited, very limited. But there is a reason why there is such a feeling of wonderment when we see them, and even more when we are close to them, when we are in physical proximity. There is a joy. there is an emotional response that is very strong. People laugh, they often cry because we are touched at a really deep level. And that is because their energetic field is carrying that energy of connection. So, and it's not a hive mind, like with insects, for instance, because again, they are very individualized, but they have that heart connection, which is, among other things, for instance, what allows them to act in such a coordinated way, in such a highly, highly coordinated way. And things are, scientists have been observing things in cetacean societies, in cetacean groups that are very rare, even non-existent in other species. Like, for instance, the way that the fact that adult dolphins live with their mothers after they've grown up. And yeah, cetaceans, they form matriarchal societies. They do because they are feminine species, primarily feminine species. And because of how strongly connected they are to the heart and the consciousness, the spirit and the consciousness of the planet. Because our planet is also primarily a feminine being. So connection with cetaceans is helping us to connect with ourselves, because they function as a catalyst for that reconnection process to take place, to help us lift the veil of illusion of disconnection. And it is very strong. It is very strong. Whales in particular, there is that feeling of a cosmic presence when you are interacting with a whale. When I say interacting, being in the presence of a whale is enough to interact with it. There is that feeling of a vast, expanded consciousness, of a cosmic presence. And the reason for that is that whales are so strongly, so powerfully, so intimately one with the heart of the planet. And I've said that in many videos, and I'll repeat it in many other videos. Their song is the song of the earth. They pick the creational frequency, the creational song that is emanating from the heart of Mother Earth, and they translate that frequency into sound, into audible sound. It's not all audible. Many of the frequencies they sing are actually beyond what we hear with our physical ears, the way they are currently configured. So that is what I focus on. I focus on that very, very magical relationship, and I help to put people in contact with cetacean energies, because I carry cetacean energies in my fields at all times, and with cetacean spirits who are always with me, And if they're not, I can always call them, and here they come. And they are really powerful allies. Cetacean spirits are powerful allies. They can help in very significant ways and in a multitude of ways. And they're the best. They're the best to heal the pain of reconnection. Excuse me, the pain of disconnection. They're the best to help us reconnect with who we truly are as individuals and as a species, because we have a tremendous, tremendous potential as a species. We have a potential that no other species in this universe has. We're the golden child of the universe, and we have completely forgotten about it. And we have been deliberately convinced otherwise. But, all right, so I help people with dolphin energies and allies in my coaching sessions, in my shadow work sessions, in the online course that I have designed with their assistance, which is very appropriately called the Human-Cetacean Alliance, and with what is the flagship of my activity currently, which is the retreat, whale watching and swimming with dolphins retreat in Madeira, the island of Madeira. So that is really for the full spectrum experience. When I say full spectrum, I mean that it includes the physical aspect, not just not just the spiritual, the energetic contact that people experience in private sessions and in the course, but also the physical side when you are in close proximity of whales, when we can enter the water and be in contact with common dolphins and spotted dolphins, because these are the two species that we are allowed to mingle with, so to speak. So we can be in the water, in the water, in close proximity to them, and that has its importance because water is a fantastic frequency holder and frequency carrier, and sound carrier. Of course, sound is a frequency, a physical frequency, but water is a fantastic sound carrier, and so much passes in the sounds that dolphins and whales are emitting. Their songs and their whistles and their clicks. They are fantastic sound healers. Fantastic sound healers. They really master that art of sound healing. So that's what I wanted to communicate to you. And well, if you want to know more about the services I offer and that I have just described here, you can have a look at my website. There is a link in the description of the video. In the meantime, I wish you all the best, and hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. If you want to help with the reach of this one and with this channel in general, like most content creators, I respectfully request that you please like, share, subscribe, comment, because that is very useful with the YouTube algorithm and other video platform algorithms. So, in the meantime, all the best. See you. Take care.